Welcome back to our Learn Flutter series. Today is lesson number 4. Today we are going to talk about timers. Before I start, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do so I can keep you updated with all the latest stuff that's happening in the technology world. So let's get started. Today is the time for timer. So where do we use timers? So this is what we are going to cover in today's lesson, that what is a timer. And then there are two types of timers, a one-time timer and a periodic timer. That's what we are going to talk about today. Well, what exactly is timer? Where do we use it? So since we are building a cryptocurrency monitoring application, you do want to have the ability to refresh your prices at a fixed frequency, periodically. So you do need an ability so you can get the data at a fixed frequency, and based on that you do want to refresh your UI elements on the screen. So that is a classic example of the timers, and you have used these timers in JavaScript also. You probably know setInterval, setTimeout. So a few examples: you want to refresh data at fixed frequency, you want to refresh some UI elements, or maybe you want to do some animation at fixed frequency on your screen. You want to send some updates to the user at a fixed frequency. So how is this implemented in Flutter? In Dart there is a class called timer. So that is the one that will provide you the ability to implement this timer. So when you will instantiate an object for timer class, you are going to need the package, and you will need to import Dart async package in your code. So as I mentioned earlier, two types of timers. One-time timer. One-time timer is the one that fires an action only one time after a fixed interval of time. For example, let's say that your screen shows up and you want to do something on the screen, let's say after 5 seconds or 10 seconds. You will use a one-time timer that will fire. Another classic example is that as soon as the screen shows up, you set up a timer for 0 milliseconds. This is a very frequent use that we have seen in the web applications, that people do set up a timer for 0 milliseconds and that action fires. So that is the use of one-time timer. Periodic timer. So periodic timer is the one that keeps executing an action continuously at a certain frequency. That means that, for example, think of it as a clock. A clock keeps ticking without stopping after every 1 second. That is a classic example of a periodic timer. So periodic timer will keep going. This is equivalent to setInterval function in JavaScript, which keeps executing until you cancel the interval. Same thing. For a periodic timer, this will keep going until you cancel that timer. So that's pretty much what we have for the use of timers in Flutter. So let's get right into the code. I will show you how it is used. Well, so now that I have started setting up our application to start showing some data. So one of the things that I am going to do is that I need to set up a place where I can collect the data on a fixed frequency, refresh the data at a fixed frequency. So I have implemented a class called current currency prices. So you can notice that I have extended this class from change notifier. In the last lesson where I talked about some state management and how the change notifier was being used to convey the actions of the user on the bar. So the same mechanism is going to be used, that as soon as I have the new set of prices, I am going to notify all the subscribers that I have the new prices. I will talk about that in the next lesson when we will talk about state management and how the data gets conveyed to the views. So, but in this lesson, I'm only going to talk about the timer. So here you can see that in the class that what I have done is I have initialized, and as part of the initialization, I have created a object, a timer. So this is how you create a one-time timer. You just create a new object of timer, give it a duration. So right above I have initiated a duration. So there we go. So where I have said that I want this duration to be based on the number of seconds, and I have set a frequency of 10 seconds that I want my prices to be updated every 10 seconds. So that is how you do a one-time timer. Next one is I want to have a periodic timer which will keep firing every 10 seconds. So this is how you do. On the timer, you will call the periodic method on it. The first parameter to that method is the duration at which to fire. And the second parameter is the callback function, which gets called at that frequency. So you can see that I have two functions in my class. Get new prices right down here. This is when I'm gonna do the final set of code, I'm only gonna have one function refactored, so both can use it. But for now, for the sake of clarity, I'm just keeping them as two, so you can see there are two functions. One is get new prices, which is associated with our timer object right here, and this will get called only one time after 10 seconds of when the screen shows up. Then the next one is the periodic timer. So this is the one that's going to keep getting called every 10 seconds. Other thing you will notice that the callback function for the periodic timer passes the timer object to it. So you may be wondering, why do I need timer? Yes, you do. Is because this timer is going to keep firing. It's not going to stop. There may be a time that you don't want it to fire anymore. You just want it to stop. So what you're going to do is that under certain conditions, you can cancel this timer, and there is a method cancel. So what you can do is that, for example, that if I have if not needed, I can just simply say timer cancel, and that's it. Yes, there is a error right here because I don't have anything called not needed. I just want to show you that this is a use that you will need for timer. It's not just limited to this, but this at least give you a way that why do you need the timer, or you may want to change the frequency of it also. So that is a use of timer. So that's all you will need to set up the timer. So this first one, when you create a one-time timer, that is equivalent to setTimeout in JavaScript, and when you create a periodic timer, that is equivalent to setInterval in JavaScript. And let's see if this works. I am gonna fire up the application, and yeah, you can see that when the screen came up, I did not have any data. It shows up as data is unavailable, and as soon as the first timer fired, it did update the data, and you can see that it updated the time, updated at. Now you can notice that every 10 seconds this is gonna change. 7:10:36, that is the update. Next one will happen at 7:10:46. Here we go. So now you can see how the timer is used. That's all you need to do to use the timers in Flutter. I hope this was useful. It helps you in setting up the timers in your application wherever you need it. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments or contact me on our blog site, byteblogs.com. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. And again, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do so. Till next time, stay safe, stay healthy. Bye bye.